Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Campus Conversations with the ACC's Chancellor and Provost. My name is Jessica Vess, and we are happy to have you with us. For those of you watching on live stream, thank you for tuning in. We are going to quickly go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Rhodes for this conversation. I do want to let you know that there will be opportunities for conversation at the end of a brief presentation that Dr. Rhodes and Dr. Humphrey will present. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand at that moment. We will come around with microphones for you. Because this is on live stream, we need to have your audio on a microphone so it can get picked up that way. So just be patient, give us a second, raise your hand when we get to that moment, and we will get a microphone to you. And on that note, I will hand it over to you, Dr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Jessica. So am I on? Okay. I can't tell. So good morning.
Good morning.
How is everybody at Cypress Creek?
Good.
Okay. All right. A little louder? Good? Okay. So we've got the A row, the B row, C. Lauren, what are you doing back there? No, glad to be with you this morning. It's been a while since I've been out to Cypress Creek, and so it's great to get back out here again. I just want to run through a few slides, and then I want to introduce you. If you haven't already had the pleasure and opportunity to meet our new provost, who's not so new anymore, she came on December the 13th, and I'll introduce her in just a minute. But I'll walk through just a few slides just to give you some updates on what's going on, and specifically, I'm going to come back to this one, okay? Because she's going to come up and talk to you in just a minute. So the Cypress Creek campus, so serving the North region. So as you know, we broke out all of our service area, which are 11 campuses and 2 land banks for the future. We've broken that out into 3 different clusters, North, Central, and South. And that is, the reason we did that is because we want to try to make sure that all of the programs that have high cost dollar, such as nursing, some of those programs welding, are offered to our populations in the northern region, the central region, and the southern region of our service area. And so we've broken it out, clustered the colleges by that. So Cypress Creek has a great reputation as a transfer institution to help students gain all of the courses necessary to be successful in transferring on to UT or Texas State or wherever they want to go. And so all of the general core courses here, but also the EMT program. And we currently have 1,600, but that's just in the credit programs. That does not include any of the short-term training or the continuing education programs or any of those types. So we are coming back to life out of COVID. I'm beginning to see more of our students come in person, which is a good thing. And but I can tell you that our students are struggling. There is a lot of concern about food insecurity, housing insecurity, child care insecurity, transportation issues that arise with our students. This is a tough time for a lot of students. We have been blessed over the past 2.5 years with federal funding to help our students stay on track and stay in school. But that funding has basically gone away. There's going to be a little bit left that we can have until next summer to utilize, but basically it's gone. And so how do we help our students? I was just talking to Amy Baucom, who's our executive director of the foundation, and she was telling me that we've got some emergency funds in the foundation to help our students as life gets in the way. Car breaks down, they can't afford their child care payment this month. So we have an emergency fund that can assist them and make sure that they don't have to drop out. I talked to her yesterday. That is completely depleted. So fortunately, we have a golf tournament as a fundraiser this Friday, and that's all of the funds that we raise from that tournament go into the emergency student aid. And so we've got work to do to make sure that our students can stay on track. One of the things that I will tell you that we are looking at and experimenting with as we move forward is looking at child care on multiple campuses. During this budget cycle, the board agreed to target $1 million to do kind of a pilot child care project. And we will use that to determine how do we begin to spread that out on multiple campuses. Some of our students don't want child care on the campus. They want it closer to home, or they want closer to where they work. But many of our students would take more courses and would stay longer with us if we had the opportunity for them to have their child on our campus. And so that is one of the things that we're working on during this year. The other is taking a look at some of our campuses and how can we help in addressing some of the housing insecurity. So taking a look at student housing, which is almost unheard of for community colleges, other than those that are in rural areas where they need to attract students either because of athletics. Usually it's because of athletics. But because of the high cost of housing in Central Texas, in the Austin area, this is something we have to look at too. And so we're beginning to have conversations on that and look at different opportunities where we might look at a public-private partnership to go into with an external entity to actually build on our campus and offer low-income housing, subsidized housing. So those are some of the things that we're working on. So you may have that conversation appearing on the Cypress Creek campus as we move forward. One of the other things I will tell you too, though, as a result of COVID, many of our students are struggling with mental health. And so we went into a collaborative agreement with Dell Medical Center and opened up this fall semester on the Eastview campus, a mental health center. So we will see how that's going, and that may eventually spread out onto different campuses. So as we look at this, I'll go back and talk about 2014 bonds. We want to make sure that we are just finishing up, or just have finished up, utilizing all of the proceeds from the 2014 bond issue. Matter of fact, on next week, on the 11th, we have a grand opening, or reopening celebration. We had to wait until COVID was passed so we could have it in person at the Rio Grande campus. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go out there and see what happened to a building that was built in 1916 and was completely gutted on the inside and rebuilt, but leaving the legacy of the external as a historic building in place, you need to go visit that. You won't recognize the interior of that. But the 2014 bonds, it was important for us to show the community that we have integrity. We do what we say we're going to do. And with that, we brought in all of the projects that we promised the voters on time, in budget, and more than what we promised them on every single campus. And matter of fact, the Rio Grande campus is LEED certified platinum. So that's the highest level that you can get on a LEED certification when you talk about sustainability. So M&O bonds, so it's not just the GO bonds that we have gone out with in 2014, but just this past year we went out and we issued maintenance tax notes. And that is something you don't have to go to the voters with, but can be paid out of the interest and sinking fund side of the tax rate. And that is to do some renovations. It cannot be used, those funds cannot be used for new construction. It can only be used for renovation, safety and security and things like that on existing facilities. So we issued about $80 million this past year, and so you're seeing some of that begin to appear on our older campuses. and some of that is targeted for Cypress Creek. So we're moving forward with that. And then, as you know, we're going to the voters in November with the 2022 GO bond election, $770 million. And there is a handout over here if you want to get one, or we'll pass it out. But this talks about the different projects that are included on the $770 million. And for when we talk about the Cypress Creek campus, $80 million of that is targeted for Cypress Creek campus. And that's really to expand in things such as IT, software development. And as I think most of you probably know, we have 3 bachelor's degrees already. We're applying hopefully in December for our 4th bachelor's degree. We have a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Applied Science in Software Development, Bachelor of Applied Science in Advanced Manufacturing, and soon we will submit for cybersecurity. And so a perfect home for software development, cybersecurity, is on the Cypress Creek campus. And so you'll see more development in that nature coming up here. But also taking a look at, as a portion of that, how can we be a better player in providing childcare? So we'll be working on that too as a part of that. So this is how the money breaks out. So in the North region, we've got projects totaling about $200 million. In the Central region, $180 million. But the greatest amount actually is going into the South region because that's where we have not made investments in the past. And so if you think about it, you know, Hays County, Kyle and Buda area, we did phase 1 and 2 of the Hays campus. But one of the things that's missing in the South is we don't have any of our health sciences, our nursing program or any of that. And when we talk about a commitment to affordability and accessibility, because of the traffic issues in the Central Texas, Austin region, is we've got to put those in locations close to our population. We don't want people from San Marcos, Buda, Kyle to have to drive to Round Rock, even though Round Rock's a great campus, to get a nursing program, or to Eastview. It's difficult, and our students, we don't want to challenge them like that. So we need, in the southern area, we need a presence for things such as nursing and healthcare. That's why a lot of that money is going in there. But also, we went to the voters in 2014 and we asked them for permission to land bank in the South service area. We bought about 140 acres that's real close to the airport, and 130, kind of in that corner, which is very close to Tesla's new plant. What that campus will be, and we told the voters we need to land bank it, and we'll come back to you at a later date so that we can build a training center for career and technology occupations. So advanced manufacturing, welding, auto trades, building and construction management, skilled trades development out there. That's what we're going to build on that campus. And we'll be in collaboration with Del Valley School District as we build that out. So that's why a lot of it is going into the South region, just for your information. So I'm going to talk about the Chancellor's priorities, but I'm not going to talk about it, actually. Our provost is. But so let me introduce her. So we are very fortunate. Dr. Monique Humphrey comes to us most recently as a campus president in the Houston Community College District. Prior to that, she was at Cuyahoga Community College and did some great work in taking a look at how they develop career and technical education programs, especially taking a look at the development of software development, IT programs, you name it, but meeting the needs of business and industry. What were their growth needs in the Cleveland area? Prior to that, she has great work experience on the industry side, and that is spent 10 years, I think, with Hospital Corporation of America, with B.F. Goodrich.
Bridgestone.
Good.
Yeah, 8 years with Bridgestone.
Bridgestone, yeah, and so brings that experience from the industry side of the house, combined with community college administration, brings that to ACC. And so I am delighted. She's been with us since December the 13th, is making a huge difference in taking a look at the future and how we plan for the future as ACC, and be very strategic about how we move forward as an institution. So with that, please join me in welcoming Dr. Monique Humphrey.
Thank you, Chancellor. So good morning. How's everybody? I'm excited to be with you all. It's great to see some familiar faces. And again, I want to thank you for the warm welcome that you all gave when we had the 3C Shining Stars Awards last week. The weeks are merging into each other now. So I saw a lot of faces then, and I'm glad to be able to see a lot of new faces. And excited to have this opportunity to talk to you today about all the amazing work that's going on that we're all collectively doing together. So Dr. Rhodes alluded to the work that we're doing with the Chancellor's priorities. And I just want to step back a little bit and say, you know, as we approach this work, he mentioned the strategic element of it. We understand that when we talk about the mission, vision, and values of the college, as we work together collectively to advance our work on student success, it's not possible unless it is collective. And so what we're doing with the Chancellor's priorities is we are being laser focused to make sure that there's cohesion across the district, so that as we take on these different initiatives, that we're all working towards the same goals. And so one of the things with this work is we're organizing in ways where if I talk about something that's really exciting to you, that you have a passion about, we will be rolling out opportunities for people to volunteer for the different areas, because we have a lot of places where you can plug in and help drive student success. We all have our day jobs, and we have the things in our job descriptions. But the Chancellor's priorities are the work, the collective work that we're doing to continue to advance the great innovation. One of the things that I talk about when I talk to people outside of the college, I'm always proud about our national reputation for an excellence in teaching and learning. And we're going to continue to focus on those things, and that's only possible by the amazing work that you're doing every day. But we also have a national reputation for innovation, and we're going to continue to build upon that. And one of the things that we're focusing on is we understand that to continue to innovate and to continue to excel in teaching and learning, we have to apply that process of continuous process improvement so that we can continue to be a learning institution. And so as I talk about the different Chancellor's priorities, as Dr. Rhodes has alluded to and Jessica has alluded to, we're going to have time after the brief presentation for any questions that you may have. So we want to hear from you, and we want to hear about the things that are important to you. So there are 6 themes under the Chancellor's priorities, as you saw from the previous slide. But the first one is equity. And so as you probably already know, this is one of the reasons why I was drawn to this institution. No one had to tell ACC that equity was important. This is something that the institution has embraced for a long time, from the faculty taking the being proactive enough to have a stance on equity and leading with an equity lens. As early as 2016, when I was doing my research on the institution, I saw where it was a faculty-led statement in 2016. And so as I was telling some of my peers why I was so excited about coming here, it didn't take George Floyd for ACC to say, you know what, equity matters. We had faculty members, staff, and administrators that were already looking at things with an equity lens. And so we will continue to be focused on equity. We have it listed as a theme, and it's truly the lens at which we approach all of our work. We're going to leave it as a standalone theme so we can continue to track and monitor our progress. We will always look at things from an equity perspective. When we think about this, what does this mean? So if you think back on the collective work that the institution has done around the academic master plan, one of the core themes was personalized learning for our students. And so we're going to continue to look at how we can strengthen ways to have personalized learning approaches for all of our students. So that's building on all the amazing work that we've done, but also looking at ways that we can strengthen that. So again, we're going to continue to go deeper in these areas to ensure that we continue to drive student success. And then the other one is celebrating our differences. If you all have been paying attention to all of the national conversations around neurodiversity, we're going to amplify that. Many times when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, most people, when they hear diversity, it's one of those lightning rod words. People have different connotations, and you almost have to start with a glossary for what do we mean. Most people, when you think of diversity, you see things on the surface. I like to show that iceberg model because the things above the surface are the things that you see. When you see me, you see a black woman that's 5'10", and you see my hair, you see my skin tone. What you don't see is my birth order. What you don't see is my learning styles. What you don't see is my stance on the Big Bang Theory, because that's really important to me. But I'm just joking. But when we talk about the things that make us different and also the things that we have in common, neurodiversity is important. And so if you're not familiar with that term, it's embracing different ways that people think and different ways that people learn. When you look at the research, 20% of our incoming students are diagnosed as being neurodivergent. That could range from anything from autism to ADHD to Tourette's. I mean, there are a wide range of ways in which people learn differently. And I've shared with many of you, when I was going through school, we called them learning disabilities. And I'm glad that we've changed our language on this. It's just ways that different people think differently. You've got neurodivergent, neurodivergence, and neurotypical. But there's nothing wrong with anybody. It's just different ways of learning. In fact, sometimes we can refer to them as superpowers because they see the world differently than maybe others might see it. That's why it's so important on our work teams that we embrace neurodiversity, because whether someone is comfortable sharing their differences in learning or differences in learning styles, it brings a richness to the conversations. As we're looking at solutions, one of my things that I always share is we're building solutions. We have to build with and not for, because when you're building for someone, you're building with a mindset that you know what they need. How can you tell someone what they need when you don't understand the shoes that they've walked in, when you don't understand their particular challenges? You know, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I could build something for a different population when I've never experienced their trials, challenges, or even their strengths. So it's important that we embrace neurodiversity as we talk about new ways in which we are embracing equity and looking at things with an equity lens. So we will continue to have our focus on neurodiversity. Another great thing is we're actually, yet again, a national leader on embracing neurodiversity. If you're aware, we have the Access Autism Club here at ACC, which has been around for several years. They've been featured in the local news. And so they even have professional development available to faculty and staff that's available for free, led by the students. So we're already doing amazing work. We just want to continue to build on it and continue to ensure that we're creating environments where everyone can thrive. What I've always said is you want to be in an environment where you are celebrated, not tolerated. There's a big difference. And if you don't know what I mean, just sit in that one for a moment. But we want to create those personalized environments where all of our students can thrive. Everyone needs different things, and the onus is on us to figure out how we give each student what they need to thrive. The second theme that we have in the Chancellor's priorities is enrollment. We have a responsibility as we serve our service areas to make sure that everyone who wants to advance themselves and achieve their academic and career goals has the opportunity to do so. So part of our work in that is removing barriers for our students. What are we doing as we're recruiting people and working with our enrollment funnel to help as many people that are expressing interest actually make it through the funnel? So that's intentional work on our end to remove barriers, and it's also changing how we think about recruiting and how we think about outreach efforts. So again, we want to make sure that we are providing the opportunity for everyone that wants to advance themselves from an academic and career perspective, gets the opportunity to do that. And in addition to that, we'll also be working with a consultant group, Swim Digital, on strategic enrollment planning. So yes, we can think that we're doing all the great things, but we're going to lean and leverage on the strengths of some national experts who have done work in this space and helped other colleges, peer institutions nationally improve some of their enrollment and intake processes, help us to look at things with a critical eye so that we can help remove some of the barriers for our students. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure, that, again, that all of our students feel welcomed from the first time they have an interaction with ACC. The third theme is learning and retention. I've already mentioned our national reputation for excellence in teaching and learning. We can't get comfortable. You know, if you think of a sports team, if you were #1 last season, that's great. But if you didn't practice in the off season, what happens on the first Saturday? It's going to be rough, right? Your opponents have been gearing for you all off season and they're waiting. In this regards, it's not that we can get, the tendency when you get comfortable is to assume that you already know everything. And the one thing that would definitely work against us is if we feel like we've already solved every academic problem known to man. I just talked about neurodiversity. Do we know everything there is about creating the optimal environments for neurodiverse students and neurotypical students? No. But we'll figure it out together. We've got some great people. One of the things that I've been so impressed about is the commitment and the intelligence and the passion of all the ACC professionals that I've met. The commitment is bar none, and when you think about, you don't get to have a national reputation for excellence in teaching and learning without some amazing people. I had a conversation with my dad this weekend, and I said, you know, I'm so excited that I work with such amazing people. You know, the faculty are so innovative in what they do and what they bring to the table. And, you know, I was just sharing just some of the amazing things that we're doing here. From the accelerator, you know, and I know you probably take it for granted because it's been here and you're used to it, but find another college that offers a personalized learning experience for every student. Any student can walk into an accelerator and get tutoring on any subject. You know how amazing that is? Yeah, I have to just sit in that for a little while because it's pretty amazing. You might be used to it, and I know I'm new, but it's pretty amazing. We have all of these supports, but are we comfortable, complacent? It's my job to ensure that we don't get complacent. We have to continue to strive and stretch as a learning institution so we are continuing to meet the needs of our students. Dr. Rose just said, our students are changing. The last 3 years have been hard on everybody. They've been hard on our students, but guess what? It's been hard on us too. And we have to be kind to ourselves and to be kind to others as we do that. So as we're looking at how we continue to ensure we have the best learning environments, one of the things that we've talked about is how do we ensure that as we are a student-ready institution, we pride ourselves on that, how do we also ensure that we are a human-centered institution where we're caring for each other, where we show up for each other. You know, we've got a lot of pioneers, we've got a lot of institutional knowledge. We're lucky enough to be an institution where people want to stay. That doesn't happen everywhere. We have a lot of people that actually like each other. That matters. But because we're here, it's important that we show up for each other too. And so when you see your colleague and you know that they normally are smiling and they're not, we have to pay attention to that. When their tone changes and they're sharp with people and they're usually not, we have to pay attention to that. So when we think about all of the things that fall under the Chancellor's priorities, as I mentioned, with the Chancellor's priorities, our focus is to ensure that we are working in cohesion across the district. So the first thing that we're looking at is strategic scheduling. So we are working with teams across the district to ensure that we are rolling out the latest technology to assist our deans, our department chairs in the scheduling process. This should not be a manual, tedious process. We are going to leverage the technology that exists today to ensure that we are building a schedule that supports the needs of our students today. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, but the ultimate outcome is to have a student-driven schedule that meets their needs and helps us. Remember that first slide where I talked about enrollment? We want every student, regardless of age or background, everyone that wants to pursue an academic career, we want them to be able to do that. Guess what? Their schedules are different. We have to be able to accommodate that. So that's what this work entails. The second one is HighFlex courses. You probably have already heard about the work with HighFlex. It just means hybrid flexible. So what we're doing with that is we're building, Dr. Rhodes mentioned the bonds, the M&O bonds, the GO bonds. The work that we're doing is going to ensure that we are building the technical infrastructure, so no matter where a student is, we're going to build more of the HighFlex classrooms at every location. So if someone is at a particular location, the ideal is for the students that want the face-to-face experience, they can have that. But if life happens to them, and we know that it does, if they have a child that contracts COVID and they need to quarantine, if they're sick, but they're able to get up and function, but they don't want to expose, even a cold, other people to that, they could work from home and still join that class in a HighFlex environment. So we want to update our infrastructure and ecosystem so that we can support that. Our GIS teams were the first ones to pilot this technology and this modality, and they will be focused in the League for Innovation, an abstract on their work with HighFlex technology and that modality. And one thing that I love about the way that they approach this, from a pedagogy perspective, they said they designed the HighFlex classes as an online class that has some face-to-face attendees. So they designed it in a way to maximize that experience for the person that's at home. You don't feel like a second-class citizen. If you've ever been a member of a Zoom meeting where it just felt like you were looking at Hollywood Squares and everybody was about that big and you couldn't read anyone's facial expressions or figure out who was talking at a particular time, our objective is to ensure that if you are joining remotely, you have a first-class experience. So that's one of the trademarks of a HighFlex modality course. And then the last one is our QEP. We have our campus conversations around the QEP on the 6th, so they're flying. It's an opportunity for you to learn more in depth. But our QEP is entitled Digital Fluency and Innovation. So it's a way for our students to ensure not just that they have the digital skills, they can't just be fluent, they can't be literate. Digital literacy, we used to talk about that years ago. We have to move beyond literacy to fluency. And what does that mean? Oh, I know when I first went to Mexico and Venezuela and Costa Rica, I went with Bridgestone. I had to install ERP systems in those countries, and I was leading our ERP projects. And I was comfortable with the technology, but my Spanish was poquito, okay, really, really bad. And so combine a Southern accent and not a lot of confidence in your Spanish skills, I could read, but I was very uncomfortable speaking. So you could say that I was literate, barely, but I wasn't fluent. And I still don't profess to be fluent because I don't practice enough. But some of our students feel the same way with digital skills. They might have used something one time in a class, but they don't feel comfortable speaking about their digital skills in an interview. They don't feel comfortable if a new employer asks them to do this on day one. We want to make sure with our QEP that all of our students have the digital fluency that they need, not just to practice, but to speak to it, to be confident, and to walk out into the world with confidence, knowing that they're ready. And this is across all disciplines. And you can learn more about that in the October 6th QEP conversation. One of our other themes is wellness. I mentioned we want to continue to be a place where we are student ready and ready for all the students that show up at our door. But wellness also means that we are human-centric, and we will continue to show up for each other as individuals. As professionals, we appreciate the service that you give to the college. And that also means we have a responsibility to each other to treat each other civilly, to treat each other with respect, and to treat each other with dignity. So we will continue to do that, and that will be a focus of the college. That was one of the reasons why we rolled out the 3C Star Awards, to recognize people that are doing this well. It's just really important in this day and age that we take the time to recognize the things that make us human and the things that connect us to each other. We lose it all if we lose focus on that, because Dr. Rosa said, I'm trying to remember your mantra, innovation is collaboration. What you're saying, Dr. Rhodes? Innovation plus collaboration equals transformation. Now, what's interesting about that is innovation, we've had a national reputation for innovation, but one of the things that I always share, you can't have innovation without trust. It's impossible. It's impossible. So you have to start with the foundation of trust, but then you have to build on it. And you know what's crazy? You can have a great relationship with someone, and you can do one thing that can erode that trust between you and that person. Then you have to spend a long time building that trust back. It's important for us to, as we are a human-centered institution, we're here because we all care about student success. We care about our students, but we can't lose focus, and we can't lose our emphasis on trust and relationships and all of the things that make us human. Just a show of hands of the people that were able to attend General Assembly or watch online. All right, so you heard Gert Linhart talk about all the changes that are coming, and we know about AI, and we're aware of all the things that are coming, that are already here. One thing that we know is that computers do some things really well. If I want to reduce the errors, I'm not going to do it by hand. I'll let the computer do it. If it's something that's repetitive and tedious, I'll let the computer do it. But on the things that make us human, right now, it's hard for computers to replicate. Emotions, caring, compassion, sympathy. A computer might be able to write a card, I'm sorry about your loss, but it's not the same as when somebody comes up to you and says, I heard about you losing your mother. I lost my mother in 2005. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. That feels differently. So we can't lose focus on the things that make us human, because that's what connects us to each other, and that's also the thing that connects us with our students. They're here. When we treat them like numbers, they don't want to be here. They're here because we have treated them as humans, individuals with individual goals, individual passions, and guess what? Individual brilliance. Every single one of our students has something amazing to unleash on the world. It's our job to help them connect with their passion and their purpose, and to help them find that. We've got so many wonderful programs, high quality programs, but it starts with them understanding themselves. And we do that on a human one-on-one perspective. If somebody thinks that they can bring in some software and replicate what we do, they don't understand the magic that is ACC. But to keep that, we have to keep that human focus and care for each other, look out for each other, and support each other. There's a lot that goes under this umbrella, all right? Modernization. I talked about the need for us to ensure that all of our systems are up to date. Dr. Rhodes talked about our students changing. Guess what? Their expectations have too. What a student would accept in an online environment in 2018 is different from what they expect now. If you think about Google and Netflix, has anybody ever used either one of those? All right. You know what's interesting about both of them? They are leveraging you being in their platform. You think you're connecting to Netflix to watch a movie? Do you think Netflix really cares about what movie you watch? They care about your behaviors and they care about your patterns. Their value is they have the ecosystem where everybody comes to watch things, and they can tell from your patterns, and they have the data on millions and millions of people and their patterns. Their value is the ecosystem. Google's value is not just that you're coming to them for that search, it's that you use their browser and they're collecting all of your viewing profile history. And it's an amalgamation of all of that. We don't want to think about data science in that way, but the big tech companies definitely do. So when we think about modernization, our students are, as consumers, experiencing that every day. If you experience a Netflix and you finish watching whatever your favorite show is, and it says, hey, based on this, do you want to watch this? Your friends are watching this and they really like it. And you're like, oh, I haven't watched any Bollywood movies? Sure, okay. I haven't watched any Nigerian movies? Sure. I was all into this Nigerian series on law, and it was just amazing. It had me captivated. But they knew what I liked based on what I had watched before. Our students are expecting the same thing. And if we continue to give them 2012 technology, they're going to look at us and say, what's the disconnect? So we have to raise our bar on what we offer, the type of service that we provide them from a technical perspective. We want our technical ecosystem to be just as amazing as our face-to-face interaction. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether the students have an online experience or a face-to-face experience. We want it to be world-class. So our modernization efforts will include the work with the upgrade on our SIS system and talking about workflows. How do we improve the work that we do? And then intentionality around our technologies. I mentioned the strategic scheduling. That's heavy on technology. So making sure that we have the technology to support our deans, our department chairs in the scheduling process. And the last theme is sustainability and institutional effectiveness. This means we all have to work together to ensure that we are able to sustain our institution. We don't have much of an institution if we don't have accreditation, right? That's important for our students. It's important for us from a quality perspective. So as you all are probably well aware, we have our reaccreditation site visit in October 24th through the 27th. So that'll be all hands on deck. So if you're asked to participate in a discussion or an interview, this is important for us for the sustainability of our institution. And then we continue to work with our legislators on our priorities so that we can continue to advance the work and support student success. And Dr. Rhodes has already mentioned the November bond election. Those are all things that are critical for us as an institution. And we said it would be short, so now we're open to whatever questions. Jessica, do we have prepared questions? Okay. Okay.
Look, I told everyone you have to use a microphone, and there I was.
Okay.
We do not have prepared questions. We are here to have the conversation you all are ready for. So does anyone have a comment or a question they'd like to start with?
While you're thinking about it, one of the things, we were just in Washington, D.C. last week, where we received the Seal of Excellencia recertification, which means that we're doing, we were in the initial cohort of that, 9 institutions, both colleges and universities from throughout the country, who are recognized for improvement in student success for Hispanic students. And so we were recognized for that. There are now just 30 institutions across the country that have been recognized as Seal of Excellencia institutions. Most recently, one of the most recent inductees was actually Texas State University. Last year was the University of Texas at Austin. We were before them. And if you didn't know, Austin American Statesman has the best higher ed institution in Central Texas. Guess who was number 1? ACC. Guess who was number 2? Actually, it was Texas A&M of all. And number 3 was the University of Texas at Austin. So we are really proud of that too. Yeah, so any questions? Yes?
Oh, hold on. You know the rule.
So this is just a curiosity question. When you were talking about affordable housing for students, one of the things that we've always said is we were lucky that we didn't have residence halls or sports teams to look after in addition, while we were growing. So are you, when you talk about a public-private partnership, is residence halls a possibility?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's specifically what we're looking at. And it's a little more confusing for an urban community college because we have a lot of students who are part-time students and they're working. and they will stop in and stop out and stop back in. What I don't want to do is like a university housing where if you're not a student, you're kicked out. You have to leave. So we have to be very thoughtful about how do we allow this to happen so that students can be with us, but if something gets in the way for a short period of time, we're not going to kick them out. And so that's what I'm working on. But the other piece of this is what's called workforce housing. And workforce housing also has the ability for city subsidies to a certain extent. So taking a look at how we can look at that for employees also. And the type of housing we'd be looking at probably would not be dormitory, because that's not most of our students, where you share restrooms and things like that. But we're really talking about more apartment type of a residence. Also, I might add, while you're thinking still, is that I cannot advocate for this. At any point in time, I'm considered on the clock all the time, and so I cannot advocate for our bond election, but you can. As long as you don't use college resources, which means you can't use college email, can't use college during college time or any type of college resources. But outside of the college, you can advocate all you want to. And probably shouldn't say it, but you should. This is important to us. So,
Dr. Rhodes, Dr. Humphrey, one question on that then that we have heard that may be helpful is a little bit of the how the projects were kind of determined and identified for the proposed bond. What you might be able to say to that.
So as most of you know, we went through an extensive period of time almost at the same time, and that was our academic master plan, but it was also our comprehensive campus facilities master planning. And both of those were finished approximately 1.5 to 2 years ago in that time frame. So all of the information that came up through the academic master plan, all of the input and feedback that we got that went into the facilities master plan, comprehensive, inclusive of all of the land bank areas that we have. We have 3 regional advisory committees composed of people external to the college from the community that have been meeting for the last 4 years and getting briefings, they've actually visited campuses, they actually visited Cypress Creek and walked through the facility, but they give us input and feedback. And so all 3 of those mechanisms actually went into this $770 million. Other questions that you might have?
I know you're not shy.
Okay, I'll bring up another one.
Okay. So,
Also
yeah.
questions that stem from this, because I've seen a lot come from the bond. The impact, what the financial impact is for a homeowner or a taxpayer of the district.
Okay. So no increase in the tax rate. So I'll say that first. Matter of fact, our M&O tax rate that was just approved by our trustees, actually we have been historically at 9 cents per $100 valuation for M&O tax rate. Went down below 9 cents, so it's a little bit above 8 cents per $100 valuation, because that's the maximum voter approved rate that we can have. Actually, 9 cents is the maximum voter approved. There's such a thing as no tax increase or effective tax rate, which depending on, if the valuations go up, then the rate will go down. We're at the maximum that we can have right now without going back to the voters and asking them to approve a higher rate. Now, the interest and sinking, or the debt service that pays for the bonds, much like you have a mortgage. You know, you build, you borrow money. In this case, we're borrowing money from the taxpayers to build these facilities, of which is paid back like a mortgage over the next 30 years. What did I miss on your question, though?
What's the impact overall?
So the impact. So if you're a senior, 65 or older, or disabled, for the first time, our board made the decision upon our recommendation to freeze taxes. So over 65, disabled, will never be an increase in taxes. For those under 65, if you're the owner of a $500,000 house, then the maximum increase in your taxes per year could be $5 for the first 5 years, up to a maximum of $25 per year. So, and that depends on when the bonds are actually sold. So in some years it'll be less than that, but it won't be more than $5 per year. So if you have $1 million house, it's $10 a year.
Dr. Humphrey, I'll bring up a question for you that we have heard a bit about. You spoke a couple of times throughout your portion of the presentation about the QEP, about accreditation, about the upcoming visit and opportunities to get involved. Tomorrow's campus conversation on the QEP is at 10 a.m. It is a virtual conversation, so please do join if you can for that one. But what else could you maybe share with the campus about the types of opportunities that exist, or how we could look for those to actually be a part of that accreditation, or be a part of those conversations?
Well, with the accreditation, Dr. Mary Harris is leading that process, and so she's already sent out invitations, and I guess the campus deans and directors. I can't speak to the particulars of who's going to be asked, but I'm just asking, if you're asked, please be ready. There's a targeted list by role of who's included in certain processes related to accreditation. So it's not everybody, but when we're asked, everybody is supposed to be available and ready and excited. So that's really the best thing that I can say about an accreditation process.
You know, and I might add, I've been on a few accreditation visits, and what happens is the accreditation team in advance, they look and they say, how many campuses do you have? How many sites do you teach at, such as high schools in dual credit? And so they will pick out a handful of those, and they will say, we want to visit, as an example, we want to visit Cypress Creek. We want to visit Austin High School, or something like that. So they tell us what campuses and what sites they want to go visit, and they will talk to faculty, staff, students on those different sites. So you have to arrange for that in advance and make sure that they have that opportunity to visit with them, get feedback. One of the other things that maybe you didn't know about ACC is that our graduation rate is the fastest increase of any community college in the state of Texas. So we are up to about 23% graduation rate, which puts us right in the middle of the 9 largest community colleges in the state of Texas. The large urban colleges, we're right in the middle. Some are below us and some are above us now, but we're almost at the highest. We're getting close. So we got to keep working at it. All of that is a result of your intentional efforts. You make that happen, whether it's in the classroom or the support services, the student services, the wraparound services. Everything matters to a student's ability to stay with us. Every single thing that you do matters. And so I'm here to tell you thank you for making that happen. You know, 11 years ago, about 3 months after I got here, there was a billboard on I-35 across from the University of Texas campus that said, ACC graduation rate, 4%. Is this a good use of taxpayer money? And when I was approached by the media to respond to that, I said the data are incorrect. It is actually 3.9%. We have made great strides, intentional strides, in many different ways to make sure that that number did not stay. And so I'm really proud of this institution and all of you.
Okay, here. Any questions or comments yet? Okay, I like to bring up one thing that I know I've heard you all discuss that we didn't get into today, but it is the creation of the Make It Center and the purpose, the goal. Like, what is this? It's kind of been in the works, and there's still, I think, a lot of unknowns around it.
Yeah, there's a gentleman here named Roy Spence, who is the founding member of GSD&M, marketing and advertising company here. And he has become committed. He was our graduation speaker about 4 years ago, I think. And I asked him to shake hands, if he wanted to shake hands with all of our graduates when they walked across the stage. He did that. And afterwards, he said, I had no idea what ACC was doing until I looked into the eyes and talked to the students. I know what you're about, and I want to make sure that the rest of the world knows what you're about. So he created what's called the Make It movement. And the Make It movement basically says you don't have to have a 4-year degree to make it. You have to have the right skill sets to make it. And ACC and community colleges provide those types of skill sets necessary. And it doesn't matter what you have. If you already have a bachelor's degree, but you're having a hard time finding a job, ACC has the right training to give you the right skill set to get a living wage job and prepare you for the workforce. So one of the things that we recognize, and we're creating the Make It Center, it's at the Highland campus, it's 10,000 square feet. And one of the things that we know is a lot of our kids and parents don't understand what the careers today and the future are, because they've never experienced it, they've never seen it. When we talk about advanced manufacturing, have no idea what that really means. What do I do? You know, for most people, when you talk about advanced manufacturing, you think about a conveyor belt, and you're just like, I'm old enough that I remember the Lucy show, and her and Ethel were working in a chocolate factory. I don't know if you haven't seen that, look it up. It is a funny bit. So anyway, they don't know what careers today and the future, and so there will be hands-on experiences for young kids, their parents, their grandparents, their siblings to actually experience different career pathways and learn more about it. And from that short experience, we can take them on a deeper dive at any one of our campuses. If they express an interest in cybersecurity, we can give them a deeper dive at Cypress Creek campus. If they're interested in EMT, we can give them a deeper dive in what does that really mean and look like. So.
Right, and just to add on to what Dr. Rhodes was saying, let's say that you have someone that's 30 and they're still saying, you know, I'm working, but I'm not, life just isn't clicking the way I want it to. And they're not really sure what to do next. This is a way to test drive careers. And so it's hands-on. Instead of reading some website and it's saying this job does this and they make this much, what does a day in the life look like for that person? This gives people a tangible way to feel, touch, experience what it would be like to be a welder, an EMT professional, an engineer, a computer engineer. We're going to have a variety of careers that they can test drive, but it's going to be real for them. And so how many times have you talked to either a student or their parents and you hear, I just want to have a good job. And they don't even know what good job means, or they've got an antiquated view of what good jobs are. Because I know I was talking to some parents, and based on their child's passion and aptitudes. I said, have you thought about IT? And they said, what is it? Because it didn't mean anything to them. So to them, a good job was a doctor or a lawyer, and that was it. And so helping to expand some people's exposure to careers, helping to demystify what some of these careers are. You know, we've got to get past gender expectations. You know, if you've got a male that has the ability to care for people, we've got to get out of this gender blocking of only women can be nurses and only men can work on cars, you know. So it's helping moving past the occupational segregation of the past and helping people to really connect with what their passions and aptitudes are, and making sure that we have the right people that are passionate about these careers going into the field of choice. I know you have some more questions.
I just want to say that I just thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation. I started a few months back, and I have been very, very impressed with ACC. Although it's offers for students, I work in the criminal justice department.
Good.
And I've learned quite a bit in the last few months, and I'm just really amazed at everything that ACC does. I was working for school districts before, and to see what you have to offer, what you're going to be offering for the future is pretty amazing, because that always was a hard cry of a lot of our teachers, that for our students, that not everyone was university, college, you know, ready, but if they could find something here that could provide them a good job would be an amazing.
Well, we're glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
as Dr.
Thank you.
Rhodes said, I appreciate everything that everyone does on a day-to-day basis, because you keep the wheels moving forward, and we keep building the airplane, and we keep flying it as we go, but we couldn't do it without the dedication and the hard work of everybody in this room. So we thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Any other? Okay. Thank you all. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for tuning out.
Thank you. Thank you.